For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stacy Robison, and I'm the Special Program Administrator here at HBAPA. I'm just finishing up my first year here, and I have to say, it's opportunities like this that make me love HBAPA so much. Having you all here to see such an amazing woman and to listen to such a dynamic speaker is really what we hope we're doing for you guys as you move out into the real world and see opportunities like this. HBAPA's theater department has been so fortunate to collaborate with the Schmira Project, a nonprofit organization, for a 5-week program offering hands-on experiences in the areas of acting, directing, costume design, and voiceover. The mentoring program, the Storytelling Toolbox, has given HBAPA's theater students insight into industry standards and professional expectations, preparing them for the world beyond high school. It is my pleasure to introduce the Schmira Project board member, Amanda Quinn Oliver, to tell you more about their organization and our amazing guest speaker.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you, Stacy. Well, hello, and on behalf of the Schmira Project, welcome everyone. The Schmira Project is a nonprofit that offers programs dedicated to empowering women in all realms of entertainment to fearlessly create, inspire, and lead. We're thrilled that you can share the afternoon with us and with our special guest, fashion designer, Schmira Project Advisory Board member, Dame Zandra Rhodes. This is the finale of our 2017 mentorship program with the Huntington Beach Academy of Performing Arts, and a grand culmination it is. But before I introduce this groundbreaking artist, on behalf of the Schmira Project, I'd like to thank the Academy and its faculty for knocking themselves out to make this event possible. We're so honored to have teamed up with them. Now, to most of you here, our guest of honor needs no introduction, but it's always fun to remind ourselves how truly incredible she is. Especially for me, I've known her since I was 4 years old. Zandra is a fashion and textile designer who expanded into theater, creating costumes and sets. She's going to talk about her life and iconic career, so I won't take up too much time on that. I think it's important to mention that Zandra, who counts legendary editor Deanna Vreeland as her mentor, has always believed strongly in mentoring students. In an interview, she once said, "Keep going by whatever means you can. Don't let people crush you. Have an inner belief in yourself. In the end, what you do will come through." I'm happy to present Dame Zandra Rhodes.
Gave me a podium so I could be seen. Hang on, I have to get this so I can talk to you all. Well, I've called it my life in fashion, and really it's an explanation of my career, I hope. This is a wonderful drawing that actually Joan recognized immediately as being by one of the top artists for Vogue at the moment. What was his name, Joan? David Downton. He'd kill me if he didn't think I remembered. His signature's too small for me to read there. That's the trouble. Anyway, so we start off with the fact, my lifelong love affair with textiles. I started off as a textile designer, and I went to the Royal College of Art, which is the same college that David Hockney went to. And I loved doing textile design and hadn't imagined that I would do anything else. I I didn't want to be a pretend painter. I love the fact of the way textiles move and what they do to the fabric. So anyway, I left Royal College and tried to sell my work, and lo and behold, I couldn't find anyone to buy it. So I taught 2 days a week to make the money to live, and then put together, in the end, my first collection in 1969. And this is part of my 1969 collection. And everything I do is really based around the textiles, which are all printed in my studio in London, which is attached to the Fashion and Textile Museum that I created. And this is called Chevron Shawl. And I hadn't been trained to make clothes. I never intended to be making clothes. So in a way, it meant that I didn't know what I was doing, and I put them together in a slightly different way. And this is a transparent jacket, and I put feathers on the end. And someone once said to me, "Did you influence Galliano in his transparent garments?" And I said, "Well, this isn't transparent. She's got a bodysuit on." So I hadn't thought about it any more than that. And this one's called Snail Flower. My titles are never very good. And this is a dress I made and cascaded the snail flowers around it. Nearly everything I do is 3 colours, because that means you're not using, the 3 colours create the whole image, and it's not too expensive to produce. This is the very first print I did in 1969 called Knitted Circle, and I brought the collection to American Vogue and showed Deanna Vreeland, and she had it photographed on Natalie Wood and introduced me to Henry Bendel, and this was in 1969. And this is the first garment. This dress, which I know as 7344 because I created it in 1973, is totally based around the print itself, so that you can see a circle in the middle of that big oval thing, somewhere there behind me. And you could cut this dress out without using a pattern. And all the bits that you see in dark brown are cream on the print by the side of this. And I made it for Lauren Bacall first in this colour. And since then, I've been doing a collection where we've been recreating these dresses for matchesfashion.com. This dress, I came across America in 1975, I think it was, and ended up staying with Joan when I came across. And on the way, I drew cacti in my sketchbook and visited Nudi's cowboy shop. And this is the print that resulted, the Cactus and Cowboy collection. This is called Button Flower, and I went to Paris and I bought lots of lovely buttons and then imagined them sewn all over the fabric. And this quilted dress is one of the quilted dresses that I made from this, and its sister is in the Metropolitan in New York. I started putting seams on the outside in 1971, and this is the coat that I did in heavy white felt, and I stitched the button flowers on as a corsage. This print's called Feather Border, and these are 3 different caftans that I did in feather border. This is my Mexican, I went to Mexico, and this design, which we ended up calling Mexican dinner plate, very imaginative. And then next to it, the picture is one done by the New York Times a few years ago when they were talking about the collectability of my dresses. And this is the same print, and if you look closely at this print next door, this is the one done by Galliano and Dior, which magically had my print on it. I went to the Museum for the American Indian and did all these drawings and couldn't believe how the wonderful intricacy of the feathers and the way they embroidered things and did things, and that's my sketchbook. And from that, I did this Indian feather, little short Indian feather caftan. And that's the print, and then that's the caftan that came from it. In 1977, I suddenly thought, I'm a print designer, but I fancied doing some things which were with holes and safety pins, and I had the safety pins, we put beads on them, and put together this whole my punk collection, for which I got labelled Princess of Punk, and we put them in the window of my shop in Mayfair. Needless to say, they didn't sell. But they are now collector's items, and I know one of the blouses alone, when I had a minor flood, Philadelphia Museum paid something like $6,000 for one of the blouses. And these are just some of my original drawings of that collection. And these are some other ones. And in the middle, for those of you that are Rocky Horror fans, this is Little Nell, the one who comes out tap dancing. She modelled for me when she was 16. And that's a blouse and skirt, and then that's the punk wedding dress that's now in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Several other different collections, the bride from one of my other collections, and then I did a collection based on Manhattan, and this is an all-over beaded dress with the Manhattan skyline. A little pleated jacket and a skirt. Whoops. So when I'm lucky, and not at the moment, I don't do it enough, but I love going around the world and going to places and then taking my sketchbook, drawing anything that crops up, and then turning it into the next collection. This was my Egyptian collection from 1975, and the girls were done up as if they were hieroglyphics, and they walked onto the stage sideways. And this is another one from that collection. At the very top, there's the Egyptian leopard, and then on the far corner is Michelle Paradise, that was one of my top models, and then was Philip Tracy's top model, and she's in the feather, the giant feather print that I did, and that was embroidered. And a bit later on, you'll see, this was done in 1986, but the Valentino Spring Collection used that, got that from me as a print and used it in their collection this year. This is my gold collection. English Vogue said that there was going to be a marriage. It was obviously going to be Princess Diana, and I put together a gold collection. Again, needless to say, they didn't choose mine for the wedding. And that's Diana Ross in one of the dresses from that collection. I was invited to India in 1982 by the 1982, by the Indian government, and this was my first collection where I had this amazing makeup done by a wonderful Australian makeup artist, Richard Schmira, who created the blue goddess look. And this was a second Indian collection in 1986, I think it was, when I did them in turbans and made their hair go all pointy up. And Andrew Logan created the crowns and the earrings that were worn for this. And I did a sari collection that I actually took to India as well, because I realized that at that time, probably it's different now, but in 1986-7, they were only wearing saris and salwar kameez, so they weren't going to wear Western dresses at all. This is my Mexican collection, and this is Tina Chow in the Mexican collection. I did a Spanish collection, and I worked with another makeup artist, Phyllis Cohen, and she made wonderful stick-on eye patches, so it was as if they were in wonderful net mantillas. It was quite wonderful. That was the collection then, going on from that, turning it more into being Greece with leather bodices with the seams on the outside. These were some Vogue covers that were done. And then currently, any of you that go and look at the Vogue Butterick McCall patterns, these are a couple that are running in their catalogue at the moment. So I felt, as I was talking to students, one shouldn't think that everything is all plain sailing. You might think it's going to be all right one day, and then you fall flat on your face and you have to work out what you're going to do. So I'd always believed in my work, luckily, and I'd saved one of everything for myself. And so I was like this giant snail with all these boxes of clothes. And no one was taking any notice of my work. And my close friend Andrew Logan, who made the jewellery that you see on me, said to me, you know, there's a warehouse going along the road. And this was in a really quite down and out part of London. It's now very chic, but I'll explain that in a minute. And so I said, what do you think I am? Made of money. And I worked out I could sell my house in Notting Hill Gate, get rid of my factory, put everything in one building, have part of it for my studio and part of it for the museum itself. So I founded the Fashion and Textile Museum, and I flew the top architect of Mexico, Ricardo Legarreta, first class on my mileage tickets to London, and got together a whole lot of architects, and they said this is a really up-and-coming area, and he agreed to do my building for me. So Ricardo Legarreta designed my fabulous pink and orange Fashion and Textile Museum. And this is the inside with the blue tunnel and the pink foyer. And then another great friend of mine who did the most marvellous mosaic floors in Australia had said, when you get the museum together, I'll come and do your floors. So these are the floors. And this is my apartment upstairs on the very top. I think you can see it's probably mine. There's enough Zeds and things around. It was, as I said, in a fairly poorish area with subsidised housing, and we were very worried that the neighbourhood might vandalise it. So the first thing we did was to get children who'd never been into a museum to come in and do some drawings, even before we turned it into a museum, and while we were trying to find the money to get this started. I mean, I bought the building and lived in relative squalor upstairs for a while. And then we convinced Larry Hagman to come over and unveil the sign for us. And then Princess Michael of Kent is our, I forgot what you call it, but anyway, our lady who came round and opened it for me. And there she is cutting the ribbon. And our first exhibition was called My Favourite Dress, and we got all sorts of people to come over and send their dresses, like Galliano. My mind is going at the front one there. Betsy Johnson, all different people from all over the world sent a dress for us to put in, so it became an international museum. Since then, we've had fabulous exhibitions. This one was by Kay Fassett. For those of you that are into tapestry and quilting, he's probably the top name in America as well. He is American and travels all around giving demonstrations, and this was his exhibition. And then Miss Sony did an exhibition last year. And the most recent one we had was an Anna Sui, which was her first in Europe. So people weren't taking any notice of my work, so I opened the museum. I was lucky they built the Shard, so it became quite a nice, chic little area. And then by being partly in San Diego, the head of the opera in San Diego said, have you ever done an opera? And I said, no. So he said, well, why don't you have a go? So I started with the magic flute. I think this is a magic flute. And these are the magical animals. This was done, in fact, although it was started in San Diego, it actually now belongs to Seattle. And this was the Queen of the Night coming down. And I could use all my different prints and different things that I'd done that could be of use for the opera, which was quite nice, because opera, you can put things on people and they're large, but they become thin once you dress them. You know, the combination of voices and sound and everything is quite wonderful. Needless to say, we had a bit of coloured hair in for them. And there's the Queen of the Night. That one's in the Seattle production. And these are the magical little sort of, well, they're little guiding, I don't know what you call them. I was going to say gnomes. I don't know what they are. In America, they're usually little girls, whereas if they'd be in Europe, they'd be 3 little tiny boys, and the poor girls have to be strapped in to look flat as they come down. And this is the guardian of the water, and he's on very high platform shoes, and we made wonderful suits of armour made out of glittering fluorescent-y board that they have on advertisements in Las Vegas. And that's the fire guard. And that's the princess. We gave the princess very long hair, so even if she was fat, she could toss his hair around and look thin. And this is Sarastro, who represents the sun, and he had a big sun brooch, again designed by Andrew Logan, who did this for me. And then his hair we had up like flames or punk, whichever way you'd like to see it. And another one of the Queen of the Night. And these are the magical servants, and I did their hair as if it was different stages of the moon with a veil hanging down on it. And this is the Birdman, who eventually marries the lady with the green hair. And that's a crocodile, and that's inside is usually a lady with a bathing suit on, and it's on a skateboard. And when we first did it, we had a sloping stage, and she came on, and the wheels hadn't been geared, and she started to roll towards the music pit. These are the lions, and they're really giant shields, and then they just have to wear sort of like yellow baby grows with little feet on so that they look all right and they come out just forward. This is the rhinoceros covered in pearls with 2 people in him. And these are just other of the magical animals, the dragon and the griffin. And then these are the different priests again. For me, opera's been an expansion of being able to use my work, and most of it I can then bring fabric back. We can buy lovely cheap polyester and bring it back and paint on it and do various things. These were this is the bad man, Monastatos, and in Mozart's day he was black or coloured, so I thought, oh well, we'll have him blue then. So he's a blue man, and these are his servants that are also blue. And I went to the same people that had done that wonderful Ridley Scott film, The Gladiator. So all of these lovely vicious points are rubber. Then I got asked if I'd do the sets and costumes for the Pearl Fishers, which is a minor Bizet opera that's really now becoming very, very popular, and I know it was playing here in your opera house. Wonderful music, and it takes place in Sri Lanka, Ceylon, but Bizet never went there. So when I was asked if I'd be interested in doing sets and costumes, I was told that the sky was the limit. But I got asked to go and judge Miss India in Hyderabad about year 2000. And I said, well, is there a fee? They said, oh no, there's no fee, but you get flown there business class. So I said, well, in that case, I'd like to have someone with me, please. And I took again my great friend Andrew Logan. We went with our sketchbooks, as I needed to check out that Sri Lanka was near enough to India, as I knew India quite well, and I wanted to check that I was slightly authentic. These are based on the columns of the temples in Madras, what's that, Chennai now, And then I went to some carved temples in Sri Lanka, and they had ladies painted on the stone caves. So that's how I came to be doing mermaids in the rocky temple. And these are fishermen that I only saw in a catalogue. I never saw any fishermen like that. They didn't come to me for reality, so the palm trees are various colours, but they're very textile-y. And this is the prince. And, the prince is in the wrong place. Wrong prince. I didn't notice that when I was checking. Sorry about that. The prince belonged to the magic flute. This is the wonderful priestess that gets led astray by one of the heroes in the play. And here's the priestess coming in veiled with all her turbaned servants. And there are the two one's the man who gets the girl, who's always a tenor in opera. And you'll notice that he has a lovely printed leopard skin from the Egyptian collection. And then the other one's got bits of print that I've done. And then the priestess and the priest are in the pinks and orange palette. But again, using all my prints that I do for them in London. Then I got asked to do Aida, the ultimate Egyptian opera. And luckily I'd been to Egypt in 1986, so I could refer to different things like the magical eyes. And I based most of it on with this magical eye that I could put in the background for the scenery. That's the hero. And those are all the men, and everything's wonderfully stiff in these crinolines. And that's I based Aida, since she was Ethiopian, I based her, tried to make her slightly ethnic. And when I first designed the opera for Houston, they looked at my drawings and they said, you haven't got the tops covered. What are you really going to do? And I said, well, I assumed that I would put them in flesh T-shirts and paint the T-shirts to look real. But it wouldn't matter because they wouldn't be really showing their bodies. And they said, you can't do that in Houston. So all the bodices got raised, as you see on the top picture there. And then all of the priests, I had them in what are called in the opera business bald pates, so that they had flesh bathing cap things on. And then we painted turquoise tattoos on their heads. And then again, they're all in the leopard skins. Well, so I got to be introduced to opera, I built the museum, and suddenly everyone started to phone me up and say, Galliano's just done a collection of all these chiffons, and they look just like yours, and they suddenly rediscovered me. This is Sarah Jessica Parker in one of my dresses. So these are some fairly medium recent. And they're all again based around the print and how it can be worn. But like talking here up, what I wanted to convey is that your career is always going to go up and down. But the only thing is you don't tell other people that it's going up and down. You just keep going and you don't give up. And you surround yourself with friends that tell you not to give up. So these are just different collections. I can't remember the dates. I'm not endowed with memory here. God, I always look so small, you see. I know they're wearing heels, but I think I am too. But I think I shrunk even more there. They should always give me a box like they've done here, you see. I find coloured hair quite useful. I have a selection of wigs. I don't often wear them, but I do use them in shows. I did the weaves and the prints for a show for clothes that I did for Malaysia. I did this show in Malaysia, but launched it in the UK. And I designed both the weaves and the prints. I believe that if you are representing yourself, you should always represent yourself, so that I always try everything out on myself, even if later I look and I think, how did I wear it like that? When I was wearing, this is still one of my favourites, and I keep sending it out. It's a bit old now. One day they're going to realise. That's how I looked right at the beginning when I first left college. So that's about 65 years ago. My God. I always keep this blue picture in, but I don't like it. Then this was my Indian sari look when I had some extensions in. And that's another one of the Indian look with the blue goddess look. That's a more recent one, but now it's getting to be less more recent. And then these are different people, like this is the outfit that Freddie Mercury gets luckily remembered in. They don't remember him in that black t-shirt. They think that I'm a total authority. I made this outfit in 1971. So, but it's always the one they come to, which I love. This is Bianca Jagger in one of them, and that's Kelly Osbourne. That I captured that little picture of her in her Zandra Rhodes blouse. And then this is Paris Hilton, Joan Rivers, Nicole Richie and the Olsen twins. I never know where the Olsen twins get their dresses from, but they appear. Kate Moss in one of my, it's a low back dress worn to the front. And that is Princess Anne in her engagement dress. Princess Margaret. And those are two different pictures of Princess Diana and also Princess Michael. I did the pink-haired fairy on the top of the Christmas tree in Buckingham Palace one year. And then that's when Diana was in New York for the the Christie's sale. That's the pink-haired fairy on the top of the Christmas tree. That was when I got my CBE, which is the commander. And that's me getting my Dame one. And I think... I did some makeup for Mac. I designed the packaging and then they did the postcards. And then this is the collaboration that I did with Valentino last season, which he took my lipstick design that I've actually got on, but we turned it into the love blades. And then we look back at my old things that I'd done, a jumpsuit that I'd done in 76, and the 1973 dress. And we've been doing all of these for Matches Fashion. One-sided dress, Manhattan print, gold dress. And thank you very much. Am I doing questions now? I don't get let off the hook, I can see that.
Yeah, so if you'd like to ask Zandra some questions, please form a line right over here.
You have a card? Card?
Yeah, I have it. Who is your favorite person to design for?
Sorry?
Who is your favorite person to design for?
I don't really have a favourite. I mean, you often have someone come in and they try things on, and then if you reach a lovely conclusion with working with them, they become your favourite. I mean, there are some that are monsters that you never know about. I think Joan knows about, I'm trying to think who it was. Who's that Hungarian woman that was awful to me all the time? Oh, Zsa Zsa Gabor. She was absolutely horrible. And when the men were in the room, she'd be really lovely. And then when they weren't there, she said, I hate this dress. But, you know, most of the time, the main thing is that the person that you've dressed feels lovely and feels great in the dress. And then it makes me feel great, you know, rather than them say, I didn't enjoy wearing it at all.
Hi, I'm Chloe, and I saw you collaborated with Valentino. Have you collaborated with any other designers or artists?
I haven't really, you know, in the main, I've always kept my prints to just myself. It was just such an honor to know that I'd been asked to do the really first notable collection for what's his name? Pier Paolo Piccoli, when it was the first time he was on his own. And the fact that he referred to things that I'd done even in the 60s, that it was a great honor and I hadn't turned it down. I have done collections for another company called People Tree, who deal with ethical clothing across the world. That was a great, and we went around India and met the people who grew the cotton and everything like that. I mean, really, if I'm asked, I always try and give it consideration. And as I say, the main thing is to keep going and keep doing your work.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marley, and I was wondering, what is your favorite design you think you've ever created?
My favorite design? Oh my gosh. I suppose it's always the one that you find you see most of and you think, oh, that's good. You know, the one with the gathered waist because I came up with an idea of something that could be made almost without a pattern. So it really sort of was the culmination of fabric and the garment. But I mean, most of the time, if something's doing well, it's your favorite. And then when it's not doing well, you say bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jordan, and I was wondering what's the best advice you can give to students wanting to pursue costume design or fashion after high school?
Wait a minute. Just what advice would I give to students who want to pursue fashion design after high school? Well, first I think you should look into what colleges seem to do the things that you might believe in most. For example, if you like what textiles do on fabrics, then there's nothing better than, say, Rhode Island School of RISD. You've got Parsons and FIT in New York. If you wanted to do really great fashion drawing and some of those things, the Academy of Art in San Francisco took all of the top people from St. Martin's very cleverly. So they do a lot of leading there. So the best thing is to try and sort of see what you can see and go from there. But after you've done a certain amount, the best thing is if you could get internships in things which you might not be paid for. It might be a problem, but I think that, and always, the other thing is, always surround yourself by encouraging friends. If you want to go out and to nightclubs and things all the time, then that's one thing. But whatever you decide to do for your career, try and have it that you can focus on it somehow. It won't be easy. But I don't think anything ever is.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matthew. How did technology inspire any of your projects or designs?
How does technology inspire? I mean, for a lot of you now, you're coming into things like all these designs that now can be done on the computer. So you're using computerized printing. I'm a bit of an anachronism since I still keep my screen printing company going because I think it will be something of value and it gives a different quality. But I think the main thing to all of you young people is to keep looking at what's going experimentally. I mean, the other big point now is the number of things that use laser cutting, you know. Now, I didn't show you the particular dress, and if later you come and look at my books here, I was inspired by both the American Indian and the Elizabethans, and I got a knife and I cut holes in the fabric before they did laser cutting. And of course everyone looked at the raw edges and wouldn't touch them, whereas now you could create that and do something totally different. But I was inspired by what I saw historically. But I mean, you're all at the future, and you're probably all whizzy on the computer, so see what you come up with. Don't give up.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Chang, and I've noticed in your designs that you have like a really feminine and whimsical style, and I've noticed a lot of the same squiggles in your design, and I think that's really iconic. But how would you, for a young artist, how would you differentiate between being repetitive and becoming iconic?
Now hang on, I haven't followed that. How would I differentiate with what?
Between being repetitive and being iconic.
No, I've missed what?
Being repetitive or being iconic as your signature.
Oh, well, how do you differentiate between repetitive and being iconic? I always think one's lucky to have enough ideas in your head to keep trying to churn them out. And really the whole thing is just trying to keep going and hoping that you can come up with things that have enough difference to keep you going. I don't know if that's enough of an answer.
Kind of works, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacob, and I was wondering how you became an advisory board member for the Schmira project.
Oh, through Amanda and Joan Quinn, my great friends, who knew how to get hold of me and convinced me to come here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Logan, and I was wondering who and what are you most inspired by, like most than anything else?
Who and what am I most inspired by? I find travel inspirational and my friends inspirational, because often they're the ones that lead me to, by conversations, and the friends that you surround yourself with, apart from what you try and learn, they can guide you to other things that you might not have thought about. So I think that it's very important not to shut yourself away, but to be able to absorb what's going on around you and try and then carry it out.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kira, and what struggles have you faced as a female entrepreneur? What struggles have you faced as a female entrepreneur?
Oh, what troubles have I faced as a female entrepreneur? Well, when I started, that subject never came up. And I remember going for a bank loan and I didn't get one. And years later, someone said, I'm sure it was because you were a woman. But luckily, I was brought up by a mother that I didn't consider that it might be different to be a woman. I just went to, I think still now, as a woman, you don't gain any advantage if you show that card. I think you have to be a bit more underhand about it. I think you just have to pretend you're equal even if you're not, and know that you can do the job equally. And if you behave in that way, I think eventually you win out and you do the job.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ning Chang. My question was, when you were young, even though that might have been a long time ago.
Sorry, louder, I can't hear you.
Oh, when you were a student, did you see like where you'd be heading? Like, would you ever predict being a designer like you are today?
Sorry.
When you were a student, could you predict where you are now? Did you see yourself being where you are now when you were a student?
I saw myself doing textile designs and teaching 2 days a week because my mother was a teacher. I had not calculated, sorry about this, what's going to come out of my mouth. I hate teaching. My mother was very, very disappointed that I didn't like teaching. And I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and set the subject for the person working for me to get on with things, and then I'd go teaching all day and then go back and get on. And I also wasn't patient with kids that didn't want to work at all. I remember once I suggested that they expelled a student, and she said, well, how would Zandra Rhodes know? She's never in the room. So I said, in life when you leave, if you can't get on your own, then you're not going to get anywhere anyway. So you've always got to have something inside of yourself or surround your friends that are going to encourage you, because it's not an easy path, it's very rocky. And it's going to be rocky whichever path you choose. I mean, it's not going to be any easier, whatever. And I think whatever job it is, it's the same. So, you know, my mother lived and died for teaching. She loved it. And I still, well, not very recently, but I did a lecture in Washington once, and a woman came up to me and said my mother was the person who changed her life, and she'd taught dressmaking in the local art college. You know, so that whatever, I mean, I've always said you just have to try and hope that you can slightly see what your goal is. It's always going to change. And surround yourself by other people that have goals, and then it keeps you keep pulling your socks up, so you have to keep on your best behavior all the time.
Thank you. I love your work. And yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Reed, and what is the first steps of creating a clothing line?
What are the first steps in creating a clothing line?
Trying to come up with an idea for the theme. Often that means that I'll sit with my friends or try and think of it, or try on bits and pieces on myself. And a lot of the time people go, oh God, you know. So if you're very lucky, you might have some handy friend that will come around and sit with you for the evening, just trying things on and saying, how do you think of this and what do you think of that? And often you can't think of anything. But you have to try.
Thank you. Dink Society.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and I wanted to know what the transition was like from fashion into costume and set design.
What was the transition like between costume and set design?
Yeah, what the transition was like.
I love that going into doing costumes, lovely, because you can go back to different things, and then I love the challenges of the fact that you've got someone large, but you've got to make them look like a princess. But you can use on the stage beautiful tricks, like a size 18 can be put into a corset, and then you give her a very flowing cloak, and the cloak's caught so it will never fall back, so you never see the rest of the body that's hidden behind the cloak. And you can shade it, and you can paint it, and do all sorts of lovely things with it. So, you know, there's both sides. If you get, I mean, I don't know how many of you, with this lovely theatre, I don't know how much you get into the staging, but see how much you could go and see some of the things behind the scenes, because it's always very exciting.
Thank you.
And the sets are just my sketches blown up.
Thank you.
I'm Grant, and I know in this current day and age with social media and website, it's very easy now to brand yourself. How did you brand yourself when you didn't have all that new technology?
I've only come into some of that technology lately. Maybe some of you have seen some of my things. First of all, I have never opened Facebook. I don't know how to use. I don't know how to use Instagram. It's done in my company. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's something that you all need to live with now. I get told I have to produce some images for things, but I still find it very difficult, and I don't find enough time to do that as well as come up with new ideas. So, but you're all on the brink of all these exciting things, so who knows what you're going to all come up with.
Thank you.
I'm Aaron, and my question is, as a child, were you encouraged to go into this industry? Or besides your mother who said she wanted you to be a teacher, was there anyone who tried to discourage you from pursuing this field?
I was a very boring child, and I loved working, and I used to like going to school, and I used to draw all the holidays. My mother didn't make me go out for a job. My sister thought that was terrible because she went out to a canning factory. But so I'd sit and draw at home and do my sketchbook, and then when it came to leaving school, I went to art college and I worked on that. And I always assumed that I'd get a job. I just enjoyed doing the work and did it regardless, and fitted it in. Is that any help? Don't know.
Hi, so I'm Nami. So I've been through some fair share of a lot of fashion phases. So what kind of phases have you been through with fashion and all that?
Sorry,
Because, since you were in college, you have changed drastically with how you have expressed your type of fashion. So I'm just wondering, I'm really curious. Yeah.
What phases of style have you gone through?
What phases have I gone through?
Yeah.
I suppose when I was first at college, I designed giant furnishing fabrics, of which 2 or 3 of them were produced by Heels, and in some of your museums, they've got some of the lengths of them. They were sort of very pop art. Then I got into being interested in fabrics to do with dresses, probably because my mother made dresses. So I thought about what the fabrics would look like when they were made up on the garments, and they were different from anything else that was in the shops. But I didn't quite have an idea of how I'd sell them. I assumed I'd go around and sell the fabric, the designs. But in the end, I built my own print studio and printed them. So I had to talk people into being interested in using those for things, but then fashion changes so quickly, so sometimes while I'm into one thing, someone else, it changes again. So it is like being on a tightrope, I suppose. But fashion definitely changes, and probably you just have to hope that you can go along with some of it. But the only similar illustration that I can use, really, what's happening here? All these things going on the computer, is, now it's gone from my head, just a minute. I mean, I'd be doing the designs for these lovely girls called Foal and Tuffin, who used my designs, which were slightly pop art. Then when I changed things to be lipsticks and things, that line keeps increasing. We better I think we're going to have to put a stop on all these questions. They're going to go on forever. Now I've been led astray, just a minute. I mean, fashion is going to change. You can mix with your friends, you can decide which way it might go, and with luck, you go with it, or you can stay true to what you're doing. Like, for example, I'm the age when the Beatles first started, before they got really popular. Then everyone forgot about them for a few years, and then suddenly they came up again. So that you just have to hope that if you can somehow keep going, people will come round to your point of view if you say it strongly enough.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we only have time for one more question.
Hi, I'm Aubrey, and I was wondering if you had a favorite Premiership League team like Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal.
Sorry, what's that?
Do you have a favorite football team?
Oh, you're talking about.
Do you have a favorite football team?
Soccer, yes.
Yeah.
What about it?
Do you have a favorite Premiership League team like Chelsea,
Me?
Arsenal?
I don't think I've watched a football match since. I did go to the World Cup here, and I went to the English World Cup when we won in just a minute. When did we win? I think it was 1967. And that was the last time that I went to a soccer match.
Awesome, thank you so much. And Zandra, we have one more question for you. One more question. Which one was your favorite Beetle?
Sorry?
Which Beetle was your favorite? Which Beetle was your favorite?
Beetle, oh my gosh. That's very difficult. That's very difficult. He's not a beetle. Oh. I don't know. I mean, I met 3 of them in the end. I never met John, but I did meet George, and we talked about gardening in Hawaii. I don't know. I was a lover of all their songs, but when I was at college, because George and Paul are the same age as me. So anyway. Well, thank you very much.